always pushing health, wealth, better understanding of self, and giving praise to the Most High. So check this out. In this video, I'm going over the Eric Adams case that got dismissed. I'm going to go over why I feel like he cooperated to get this up off of him. But most importantly, I'm going to go over William Morgan, the biggest anti-Mason that existed, that almost got the Masons thrown out of the U.S. Okay, but I'm gonna go over that story. It's a very deep story. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, push me on the algorithm. I greatly appreciate that. Make sure y'all hit me on my Patreon too, so I can keep pushing out information like this. This information needs to be out so everybody understand what we're dealing with and how serious it is. Okay. But the William Morgan thing is definitely big. I'm gonna go over that whole story on how he disappeared, and he started the first anti-Mason party to try to get this, get this stuff out of politics because he knew how bad it was. Well, first, let's get into Eric Adams, man, and check. Eric Adams is a master Mason. He got his charge. He got his case dismissed of corruption. Check this out.
And we have breaking news. A federal judge is dismissing corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Adams was accused of engaging in a quid pro quo with the Trump administration to drop the charges in exchange for cooperation on immigration enforcement. Let's get right to Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky on this one. So, Aaron, is there a chance this case could come back? It could be brought up again?
No,
or is this done?
And that's what the Justice Department had wanted. They wanted the case dropped to free the mayor to help carry out President Trump's immigration priorities, but they wanted the case dismissed in such a way that it could be revived. And the judge just said that was unprecedented and breathtaking, and in effect could leave this unavoidable perception, in his words, that the mayor's freedom depends on his ability to carry out the immigration enforcement priorities of the administration, and that he might be more beholden, the judge said, to the demands of the federal government than to the wishes of his own constituents. The judge said he just wasn't going to go along. So he did dismiss the case, but he did so in a way that it cannot be brought back.
And these are sort of layered accusations. On the one hand, the accusations Adams was initially facing, and then the accusations that this was some kind of quid pro quo arrangement to drop it.
That's right. And the judge, importantly, in his opinion, said he was making no determination about the mayor's guilt or innocence on the corruption charges. And the whole idea was that the mayor was taking money improperly in exchange for official favors, most notably helping the Turkish government open up a new consulate here in Manhattan, even though the fire department had building code concerns at the time. That was one of the main allegations. So the judge said he wasn't weighing the facts, he wasn't determining the mayor's guilt or innocence, but the case is going away because, as the judge said, he really has no power to force the government to prosecute.
So the mayor denied those charges. The judges didn't weigh in on that part of it, just dismissed the charges as the DOJ's requesting.
Dismiss them as the DOJ is requesting, but not quite in the way that the Justice Department was requesting, because they wanted the carrot and stick, right?
Yeah.
They wanted.
So, as we see, man, they dismissed his charges by giving him to do some favors for them. He was a Democrat. It's just weird to see that. I think he's going to switch over from Democrat to Republican. But the biggest information, right, is this, all right? William Morgan, right? This is the information that has to be shared, because this is the biggest thing that I think that could definitely move something here. So William Morgan. Now, William Morgan, right? He disappeared in 1826. And if you know anything about the Greek organizations, you're going to notice that they started in like 1904. Well, definitely the black ones, but all of them was like after this, like in the late 1800s. And it makes me think it makes me understand why the Greek organizations got started, because the Masons was facing so much criticism in the public eye. Check this out. William Morgan, in 1774 to 1826, when he disappeared, was a resident of Batavia, New York. whose disappearance and presumed murder in 1826 ignited a powerful movement against the Freemasons, a fraternal society that had become influential in the United States. After Morgan announced his intention to publish a book exposing Freemasonry secrets, he was arrested on trumped up charges. He disappeared soon after and was believed to have been kidnapped and killed by Masons from Western New York. The allegations surrounding Morgan's disappearance and presumed death sparked a public outcry and inspired the Thurlow Weed and others to harness the discontent by founding the new Anti-Masonic Party in opposition to President Andrew Jackson's Democrats. It ran a presidential candidate in 1832, but was nearly defunct by 1835. So they out of here, kind of like how the Black Panther Party was, right? Now, here it goes, the book on Freemasonry. Morgan claimed to have been made a master Mason while he was living in Canada, and he appears to have briefly attended a lodge in Rochester. In 1825, Morgan received the Royal Art degree at Leroy's Western Star Chapter number 33, having declared under oath that he had previously received the 6 degrees that preceded it. It has never been established if he actually received these degrees, and if so, from which lodge. Morgan then attempted unsuccessfully to help establish or visit lodges and chapters in Batavia, but he was denied participation by members who disapproved of his character and even questioned his claims to Masonic membership. Morgan finally announced that he was going to publish an expose titled Illustrations of Masonry, critical of the Freemason and revealing their secret degree ceremonies in detail. Morgan declared that a local newspaper publisher, David K. Miller, had given him a sizable advance for the work. Miller is said to have received the entered apprentice degree, the first degree of Masonry, but had been stopped from advancement by the objection of the Batavia Lodge members. Morgan was promised 1/4 of the profits and the financial backers of the venture. So then we're going to get into his disappearance. Since Mason placed their hands on the Bible and promised not to reveal the passwords and grips of the degrees, several members of the Batavia Lodge published an advertisement denouncing Morgan for breaking his word by authoring the book. And an attempt was also made to set fire to Miller's newspaper office and print shop. On September 11, 1826, Morgan was arrested for supposedly non-payment of a loan and allegedly stealing a shirt and a tie. According to the laws of the time, he could be held in debtor's prison until restitution was made, which would have made it more difficult to publish his book. Morgan was jailed, and when Miller learned of this, he went to jail to pay the debt and secure Morgan's release. Morgan was released, but then rearrested and charged with supposedly failing to pay $2 tavern bill. While the jailers was away, a group of men convinced his wife to release Morgan. They walked to the waiting carriage, which arrived 2 days later at Fort Niagara. Shortly after, Morgan disappeared. So this is the biggest part, though. Okay. Soon after Morgan disappeared, Miller published Morgan's book, which became a bestseller because of the notoriety of the events surrounding his disappearance. Miller did not say that Morgan had been murdered, but that he had been carried away. Unverified rumors speculated that Morgan had assumed a new identity and settled to Albany, Canada, or the Cayman Islands, where he was supposed to have been hanged as a pirate. New York Governor DeWitt Clinton, also a Mason, offered a $1,000 reward for the information of Morgan's whereabouts, but it was never claimed. The circumstances of Morgan's disappearance and the minimal punishment received by his kidnappers caused public outrage, and he became a symbol of the right of free speech and free press. Protests against Freemasons took place in New York and the neighbor states. Masonic Masonic officials disavowed the actions of the kidnappers, but all Masons were under a cloud of suspicion. So it's like everybody looking at them like, yeah, this ain't right. Thurlow Weed, a New York politician, gathered discontented opponents of President Andrew Jackson, a Mason, into the Anti-Masonic Party. So this is a whole party that they came out with, which gained the support of such notable politicians as William H. Seward and Millard Fillmore. In the 1828 campaign, other Jackson rivals, including John Quincy Adams, joined in denouncing the Masons. In 1832, the Anti-Masonic Party fielded William Wirt as its presidential candidate and Amos Ellmaker as a running mate, and they received Vermont's 7 electoral votes. By 1835, the party had become moribund everywhere but Pennsylvania, as other issues such as slavery became the focus of national attention. See, in 1847, Adams published a widely distributed book titled Letters on the Masonic Institution that criticized the Mason secret society. So slavery became like the biggest attention. And we noted in news that that is big, but this may have been a result of that. So members, because once they're exposing that, it's probably like, oh man, this slavery, the Masons may be into the slavery. So check this out. Members of Freemasonry criticized the Mormons for their adoption of Masonic rituals. In 1830, Morgan's widow, Lucinda Pendleton Morgan, married George W. Harris of Batavia and Silversmith, who was 20 years old. After they moved to the Midwest, they became Mormons. In 1837, some historians believe that Lucinda Pendleton Morgan Harris had become one of the plural wives of Joseph Smith, founder of the Latter-day Saint movement. She continued to live with George Harris. After Smith was murdered in 1844, she was sealed to him for eternity in a rite of the church. So by 1850, the Harrisons had separated. When George Harris died in 1860, he had been excommunicated from the Mormons after ceasing to practice with them. So now where I'm trying to get to is, how did they get to the Greek gods? Okay, so it says in June 1881, a grave was discovered in a quarry 2 miles south of the Indian reservation in Pembroke, New York. In it were bones and metal tobacco box. Other items found included a ring and the inscribed initials WM for William Morgan. The box contained a crumpled paper. Its few legible words seemed to suggest that the remains might have been Morgan's. There was also critics who suggest that the alleged discovery of the bones and other artifacts was intentionally timed to coincide with the efforts to construct a memorial to Morgan and might have been in efforts to generate publicity for the moment, which was in fact dedicated in 1882. So basically, what this means to me is that this is when all of the Greek organizations, so I believe that the Masonic organizations was getting a lot of press back then. It was a bad look because of this. And then they went to the Greeks. And now you see that people that are Masons, they're in the Greeks. And you can see like guys like Shaquille O'Neal, he's a Mason and he's an Omega. So I think the new fraternities and sororities was to pretty much cover, back then it was just the Masons had a bad name. So now we're seeing the same thing happen. The Greeks is having a bad name. These Greek fraternities and sororities is getting a bad name out here in these streets. So it's going to be hard for them to keep covering this stuff up, in my opinion. But let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. I think this is definitely, we're going to see another situation like this where I think the exposing, the awakening is here. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I appreciate y'all for tapping in with me. I'll catch you on the next video. Peace and love.
You are totally dependent on other people to take care of your needs because you don't have those roots sunk into the ground. To have a community, you must have three things to have a community in it. You must have a wholly independent economic structure that can provide goods, service, products, and things for your own people, and jobs and tax bases for your own people. You should at least control four basic things. You should be trying to control water, food, medicine, and energy to be able to survive.
Here we got Mr. Pollock. He had a cornfield. He took advantage of a free water test from us, and this is what we found in this water. We found sulfur, we found hardness, and we solved these problems with an easy fix of 2 tanks. So get your free water test today. Stay blessed. Click the link below.